Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now your hosts, Jackson Mummy and Megan Saya from Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to episode 323 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is your host, Jackson. I'm really glad to be with you. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone's staying safe in the face of the storms and all that's going on. It certainly has been a wild week in the world at large, and certainly that all plays out in the bar exam as well. It's hard to talk about the bar exam as though we're in our own bubble. And yet, I know that for bar takers, there's so much going on in terms of the bar exam that it's hard to even focus on everything else that's going on around you. So hopefully, today, we will be able to bring you up to date on the latest developments around the bar exam world. We've got a lot to share with you. My co-host Megan is going to join me in a minute. We're going to break all of that down. Before we get underway with that information, one of the things you'll hear us talk about during the discussion are the changes again in Florida. Florida having now changed their bar exam date for the fourth time this season and setting a date of October 13th for their test. Florida also announced the list of topics that they would be using to test, and you'll hear us talk a little bit about that. We'll have more to say about that in upcoming weeks, but certainly it's an interesting development. I think that the upshot of it, for those of you that are looking at or taking the Florida bar, is I'm not sure we're still beyond the point of having an open book exam in Florida. So I think that it's an opportunity to continue your study, to improve on your work if you're preparing to take that exam, just as I would say for all of you taking the exams on October 5th and 6th. This extended period of time is tough, but it also presents some opportunities. And speaking of opportunities, I want to let you know about our free training webinar. It's titled, Now is the Best Time to Take the Bar Exam, Why You Should Ignore the Crowds and the Fear. In this 1 hour free training, I'm going to take you through all the updates on what's going on around the country, the major jurisdictions, New York, California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and elsewhere in the country, what's been happening, and what the strategy is that we think is most effective to prepare and to be successful on this upcoming set of exams. If you're taking the bar exam in 2020, and certainly if you're taking it in 2021, this is a training webinar you don't want to miss out on, because it's really a look at the specific strategy to follow in order to be successful on those exams. Now, we're offering the training a couple of times a week. At the end of each training, I do a live Q&A session to answer any questions that you've got, and certainly to update on anything that's happened in the last few minutes, which often occurs these days. And as I said, it's completely free. Now, to register for this free special training webinar, you just need to click on the show notes in either the audio or the video version, or you can go to celebrationbarreview.com/now for more details. And then look forward to seeing you during that training session. All right, I did mention that we have both video and audio. I forgot to tell you that if you want to watch today's video, you can go to celebrationbarreview.com/323. That's the episode number. And if you prefer to listen to your podcast, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, radio.com, Spotify, and just about any place that podcasts are syndicated. But make sure you subscribe if you're listening so you don't miss out. So much information coming. We don't want you to miss any of it. All right, as I said, it was a busy week. There was a lot going on. Megan and I wanted to break all that down for you. So let's jump into that conversation now. Well, hey, everybody, welcome. I can't believe we're doing this in August.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy that we're in August and we're still very far from the last 2020 bar exam.
I know, it's so weird. I wanted to just announce before you and I get into the updates is that we're getting a lot of questions, I know, both Megan and I, from students who are very stressed out, and understandably so, and concerned about how to balance and go through all of this. You may recall that a few weeks ago, I created a masterclass called Abundance for Bar Study, and it has proven to be incredibly successful. The feedback has been beyond what I could have imagined in terms of being positive and enthusiastic. And I want to encourage those of you that have not been through it. It's 90 minutes. It's a permanent replay. Costs $147, $149, something like that. And I had one person write to me and say it's the best $147 I have ever spent. It is really, really valuable. If you're feeling stressed out and freaked out, this 90-minute class will really make a difference. And are you getting that sense from students too, Megan, that there's just a lot of anxiety and tension?
Oh, I mean, of course there is. Everything is changing a million times an hour, it feels like. So it's a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, so I really would encourage you, I'm not trying to sell you more stuff. This master class is a real, it's something I worked on for a very long time to prepare. It's really special. It's what we would have done at boot camp. And so if you wanted part of that boot camp feeling, but in your permanent library, here's a chance to get it. You can go to the offers tab on the webinar, and June can put the link up for you as well. But order it, it's on demand, so you can get in and watch it right away, and then it's in your permanent library. So make sure you check that out. All right, I think those are all of the announcements I have. Why don't we go ahead and sort of look at the week that was and the exam still to come. So you want to update us, Megan?
Yeah, all right. So we've got, I think first, a really important announcement. Everyone, and I mean everyone, even if you think this does not apply to me, it applies to you. You need to be checking constantly, daily, for deadlines from your jurisdiction and make sure you're getting everything in on time. So because of all these weird tests that they're not normally giving, or weird formatting of how they're giving them, or changing the provider, you know, we're going to talk about this, like people switching from ILG to ExamSoft. There is a ton of stuff coming through that are required. So different jurisdictions have been saying, hey, you need to electronically sign this, waiver, or this paper saying you're going to sit for this exam. These are all your responsibility as the applicant to make sure it's coming in. So we've just been hearing a lot from students of, I didn't realize, I didn't see the email, I forgot I was supposed to do this. And so we just want to say that in the way of two things. One, that's not what we can even be doing. We are not supposed to advise you on your application at all, or how you're sitting for the exam. And so we will be walking with you through every step of the studying process and taking the bar, but that piece, you have to take ownership of that and be responsible for that. So we won't be able to answer those questions for you, other than to say, please go. I mean, you should be your Board of Bar Examiners webpage should be bookmarked. You should be constantly flagged. Make sure that, in your email provider, that anything that comes through from the Board of Bar Examiners is getting flagged as important, so it's not running to spam. Make sure, write down those deadlines. It's been heartbreaking. We've had some students who've missed deadlines for things because it's really random requirements that they've just never had before. So please, please, please be checking.
Yeah, and it's part of being a lawyer too, is paying attention to details. And this is not a fair, it's not a fair level playing field. So I understand that, but the bar examiners are looking for ways to cut people out. And if you miss deadlines, you're just going to be out. So you've got to be on it. And I know some people have said, well, aren't you going to tell us? No, we're not. There's no way we could keep up with 50. And it's not our job, and we're not allowed to do it, as Megan said. So it's really on you as a bar taker to do that, and make sure everybody's doing that. So great piece of advice.
All right, so next, California announced, previously they had said that they were hoping to get their tests graded and results out by mid-January. Unfortunately, there is a really high number of California applicants for the October 5th and 6th exam. I mean, it's insane. So they said that the results will not be out until January 29th. So Jackson, if you want to talk briefly about what does this mean if you get your results in California and then like 3 weeks later is the February bar?
Yeah, I think the first question is, would the examiners even allow you to register with only a 3-week gap? I don't think they could, because they couldn't set up their systems in time for that. So I think if you fail the October 5th and 6th exams, you will be automatically shuffled to July of 2021 or whatever passes for that set of exams. That's the first thing. I know that there will be the tendency for some people to want to finish the exam in October and then say, I'm going to just keep studying. You'll have that option with us. We're not going to shut off your access to the course at all, regardless of whether you think you did well or didn't do well. We're not cutting off anything. However, you and I have talked about this. This has been this marathon, then extended into another marathon. I'm really worried about the mental health of students who've studied for 4 to 6 months, then sprinted up to the time, then got delayed, then sprinted again, and now finishing an exam and saying, I'm going to keep studying with the intention of sitting in February of 2021, and I don't know that you'll even be allowed to. So I think that's not a good plan. You could do it. We're not going to get in your way, but our advice would be, when the test is done for you, whatever that date is, September 9th or October 5th for California for sure, take a break. Walk away for a little while. Thing would be true in Florida. These late arriving exam dates mean that, or result dates, mean that a lot of people will get shuffled to July. Now, there's another audience we need to talk to. Those are the people that are not taking the exam in 2020. If you're not taking the exam in 2020, lock in your seat as soon as possible for February 2021, whenever that is and however it is, because a whole bunch of people, for example, in California, out of these thousands of people taking the exam, if we use the traditional California pass rate, and I think it'll be better than the 26% we've had historically, but let's say it's even 50%. That still leaves thousands of people that failed who will not be able to sit in February, which means the February 2021 test is a very different configured exam. And you should be jumping all over that, because you get rid of a whole lot of people that could take some passing seats. So if you're listening to this today or in the podcast later, and you're like, I don't know, maybe I should take the February 21, maybe I should wait. Take the February 21, particularly if you're in a big state like California. It's going to have a late release on results. So that's my thought. You have anything to add to that?
No, I think those are all really good points. Yeah, it's just recognize that it's a mess right now. Kill yourself trying to make this work. Pick a plan and stick with that plan, but be realistic and gentle with yourself that, you are not a robot, and you're not going to be able to just power through, studying for the bar for what? I mean, yeah, exactly. It's just insane. So yes. So I want to note, I don't think we have any Louisiana students, but Louisiana has postponed their August exam because of the hurricane. Is due to hit. A rough situation right there in Louisiana. I mean, I think now that we're coming into these later exams, for people who are east and particularly southeast takers, we're in hurricane season now. This is not generally an issue. There have been power outages even for people up in New York. I know they've been having power outages, and so, just again, our mantra is we're going to be flexible, and recognize that there are some things that are just so far out of our control.
Yeah, I mean, and the hurricane, is going to hit Texas as well, and that could have an impact on the September 9th exams. Storm is, this is Cat 4, as we're talking right now, with extraordinary storm surge. So, and then it's going to loop back through the middle of the southeast and head its way. I mean, look, we are in a situation where when you're talking about online exams and internet ability to stay in, we may lose internet ability, and that may cause cancellations or postponements or restructuring. This is all unprecedented. We've never given exams at this time of the year. So just, again, stay flexible, stay alert, do what you got to do, but recognize that there may be situations where bar examiners are going to have to throw up their hands and say, we just can't give an exam. So for all of you in the path of the storm, lived through a lot of storms, including Andrew and Katrina, what that is like in real terms. And so our thoughts and prayers really are with all of you.
So speaking of changes, backup plans, Massachusetts, they were the first state to do something that I think we're going to see more of, which is they have announced a backup plan. So they're planning on doing the October 5th and 6th online exam. But given all of the uncertainty around the software and things like that, they have come out and said, told their examinees, here's exactly what's going to happen if we cannot give it as hoping to. So what they're going to do is same dates, October 5th and 6th, they're going to do an open book exam. So you will get all of the questions at once. You'll turn them all back in at once. You will have no MBEs. This is for everyone. If your jurisdiction goes to open book, you will not be able to do MBEs open book because those come from the national conference, who as of now is not willing to allow any open book exams. So Massachusetts is doing is just jettisoning the MBEs if they need to, if the online ExamSoft is not working. So it will be, they're adding a performance test. So it'll be 5 essays, 2 performance tests in Massachusetts. So there's kind of 2 things, the 2 takeaways, if you're like, but I'm not taking Massachusetts, is expect that your jurisdiction may come up with a backup plan, to be on the lookout for that, seeing what it is. And then the second is, we are going to be talking a lot today about mind maps. You need to be working on your mind maps, because with these students in Massachusetts, so if this is you, and potentially if you're in another jurisdiction that does this, they have not given a deadline for by X date, we will tell you which one we're doing. It's just, if we can't, here's what we'll do, which means you may have a very hard pivot, like we've seen in some other jurisdictions, from a closed book exam to an open book exam. You need to have your mind maps ready. They're an invaluable tool for studying in the first place, even if it's a closed book exam. Like we tell everyone, you need to be using them. Creating them is studying. But certainly, if you end up with an open book exam at the last minute, you are going to want those to be ready. You are not going to have time to create them in a few days. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be clear, this is a backup plan because of the failure of the online exam proctors. There are only 2 companies that we're aware of, ILG and ExamSoft. It's pretty clear at this point. I know you've got some updates on ILG. It's pretty clear ILG isn't capable of doing this. But here's the problem with ExamSoft. ExamSoft has only been run in small settings, and they had their problems even then. We're talking about on October 5th and 6th, probably something on the order of 20 to 30,000 bar takers, all on the same system. And if I'm a bar examiner and I'm looking at that and I'm looking at the history, I think prudently I'm saying to myself, it's probably, there's a good chance it's not going to work. And because there's no chance to test it really at scale, the September 9th and September 30th exams are in-person exams. So we're literally walking in blind. This is why I think Florida is going to wait beyond October 5th and 6th.
Well, we've got an update that will.
We do.
Yeah,
Okay.
They are. We'll talk about that.
Good. Well, what do you know? All right.
Yeah.
But I think that the reality here is that there are, as you say, Megan, there are probably a fair number of jurisdictions that are looking at alternatives, and Mass was one of the first jurisdictions to jump into this October 5th and 6th. They've been leaders really in sort of the thought process. So it seems to me that this is what we might very well see. So totally agree. Mind maps, be prepared, be alert, be flexible. Some of you are just going to wrench yourselves at the thought of, oh my God, there's no multi-state now. What do I do? And there's this. It's just what it is. I wish I had a better phrase for it, but you're going to have to be flexible. Study for now the way the exam is structured, but recognize that it could change in a flash. And if it does, we're going to let you know, and we're going to give you the guidance that you need if you're in our course, and we're going to be ready. But I think mind mapping is the key to being ready. I'll also say that we have been preparing and put up, in Georgia, we already put up a essay writing update for the 30-minute online open book Georgia exam. And we're going to do a similar thing for 30-minute online essays, 60-minute online essays, and for the performance tests. So watch for those. We are preparing them and putting them out. We want to get the Georgia students first. But if you're in Massachusetts, for sure you want to be on the lookout. But anybody on October 5th and 6th, I think you want to be keeping a very sharp eye for this.
Okay, so next to Florida. So literally, as we were preparing for this webinar today, Florida announced that they've picked a date. So they will be doing their bar exam on October 13th, and then they said it'll move through to the 14th for anyone with accommodation. So if you need extra time, things like that. Yes.
Middle of the month.
Right. Yes. Yeah, you called it for sure. So I know I said last week as well, we definitely expected them to wait until after the October 5th and 6th exams were done, because I think, certainly I know Jackson agrees, they want to see what happens with ExamSoft. Yeah. They officially say as well that they will be using ExamSoft. They will be going, the trend that everyone else is doing basically with that. I think is interesting. And so I'm sure, Jackson will kind of dive a little bit more into this when he has time to sit and look through it. Said that their subjects might look a little different. So they're saying the multiple choice questions, which there's going to be 100 of, they will be Florida rules of CivPro, Florida rules of CrimPro, torts, business entities, evidence, wills, and trusts. And then 3 essays testing federal constitutional law and the following 6 subjects based on Florida law: torts, real property, Florida con law, ethics, contracts, and UCC Article 3. Okay, so they said explicitly anything else that would normally be tested is not going to be tested on this exam. So, we're going to, and Mossy just said, sleep on it, Jackson. So, this literally came out while we were still prepping for this, like we were in meetings. So we're going to give Jackson, we're not doing, you don't do real-time analysis. We are going to give him time to think about it and sort of chart the best way forward. In Florida, take a deep breath. It will be okay. We are going to walk you through how to do this, and reckon everyone in Florida is in the exact same boat that you are. There's no one who already knew, the subjects are changing. So
this is wild, because I don't know why they wouldn't have just given the same test they were going to give on August 19th. Doesn't sound like it is. The other interesting thing is, I still think an open book exam is still very much available.
So literally, one of the last things he said in this statement is a backup testing plan is being developed and they will announce details once they're complete. So again, that's to bolster what we've been saying about Massachusetts making this backup, what Jackson's, hunches are, that definitely not a set in stone. I mean, hopefully by now you all know none of this is set in stone, because that's supposedly, this definitely isn't changing. It's all changed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is okay. It's rare that you get me speechless, but you got me speechless on this one.
Yeah. Yes.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So next week.
Right. Exactly. Scott, Florida and Illinois, both to ExamSoft from ILG. So that's just important to know that if you're in those jurisdictions, you're going to get instructions, but you'll have to download the new software. And going to see what happens. They're going to run tests with ExamSoft before October 5th and 6th. Each jurisdiction will be up to them when they want to run the test. Most of them, or any of them, have promised a date when that's happening yet. A little nervous that it's not ready yet, because otherwise wouldn't you just test it now? But I'm not sure that the software that everyone's confident it's ready yet. So
yeah, and how do you use it for 10,000 plus people? Right. I mean, or 20,000. If I'm ExamSoft, I'm going to change my name for the 6th time to something else because they're going to be toast. There's no way. But okay.
All right.
Did New York announce something about their results release date?
Yes, I'm sorry. New York said that they will have their results released at the end of December. Okay. So kind of the same boat as California. It's not as late, but same boat as California, where realistically, if you get your exam results, week between Christmas and New Year's, I wouldn't advise taking the February exam if you fail. That's a lot.
Yeah, I think this is more of New York's attempt to restrict the exam. I think we're going to continue to see this is a continuing evolving story in New York with the out of what have traditionally been big groups of bar takers just aren't being allowed to sit for the exam. So if you've been thinking about New York in 2021, start looking for a backup plan. Now, if you're not a first-time taker, you've got a really small chance of being able to sit for that exam.
Yeah, we had a question in the chat box. What about New York State, where many of us are being prevented from applying and we're in limbo?
I think you're going to have to look for another UBE jurisdiction. I don't even know that will necessarily allow you to waive in, although under the UBE terms, you're supposed to have complete score portability. So you should be able to get a passing score somewhere else and transfer it in. But again, we're in this different world, and I don't know that New York is going to accept a 266 from a repeat bar taker that doesn't meet their own criteria. For the purposes of the October 5th and 6th exam, they were not doing that in reciprocity. But reciprocity, again, is different than score portability. So I think if you are a UBE taker or New York bar taker, I would start looking at a second UBE jurisdiction that you can sit in so that you can get barred somewhere, and then hope that those permit you to transfer that score up to New York. But frankly, if you're a foreign trained attorney and you don't have an LLM from a US accredited law school, if you're a repeat bar taker in New York or on the UBE or anywhere else, I'm very skeptical that you're going to be allowed to take the exam in February 2021 in New York.
All right, we have two questions about California, and they're about the two different exams, but I feel like it's all connected. So first we had someone ask, is there a downfall to taking the California exam in October with over 12,000 applicants, statistically speaking? And then I'll say the second one is more about in changing from the October exam to February, do you have any thoughts that they might delay February or do February in person? So kind of how is this all mixed in together in California?
Well, they're great questions. I mean, I have been thinking a lot about what the implications are. I still like sitting in the October California exam. I think you're playing with the house money here. The fact that it's a shorter exam with 100 multiple choice questions instead of the full MBE is something that I like. I think the online format, if you've got the tech to do it, is better than going to a test center, always, I mean, in my view. Uncertainty around February 2021 is on so many different levels. We don't know what the health situation is. I can't imagine today that there would be in-person exams in California under current circumstances, but there are a lot of things I couldn't imagine. We may see an extended exam period in February like we saw through July. Maybe that California would say, you know, we got our results out so late, we're not going to give a test at the end of February. We're going to give our test in April. And, you know, I'm not sure anyone's thinking all that many steps ahead yet. I would say this, if you are registered to sit for the October exam in California, stay there, take the exam, unless there's a personal reason for you to not take it. In other words, something's coming up, you got to be with the kids, there's a health issue, whatever it might be. Stay in there. I think the vast majority of people taking the exam, that of those 12,000 that are registered, a lot of them are going to drop out, is my view. But secondly, I don't think most of them are as well prepared as those of you in our course. So I think that you still have an advantage in that exam. And I think if you are not registered for that exam, get registered for what we think is a February 2021 exam in California, and then be prepared to rock and roll, because right now I would not place odds on a February 23rd and 24th of 2021 exam. And I definitely don't see it as an in-person exam. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, probably not, but
who knows, right?
Everything is crazy. Yeah, so I know it's hard. Okay, let's talk quickly about the upcoming in-person September 9th through 10th exams. So they're right around the corner, so I want to acknowledge these. All right, we've got just a few. I mean, it's amazing. There's very few jurisdictions. We've got Alaska, Guam, Hawaii, where if you're taking the Hawaii exam, they move the passing score just for that, the September 9th and 10th exam, down to a 133. Kansas, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, and Texas. And Texas, remember, is the very odd situation. If you're taking it there, you will be they're going to assign you a hotel and a hotel room, and you will sit in a hotel room by yourself with the door open, and you will take your exam there, and there will be proctors in the hallway, and they'll come into your room to give you, they say they'll somehow give it to you with staying 6 feet away. So I'm kind of imagining, like, you know, those little like trash picker upper things like on the beach, like, yes, like handing you the test booklets. But yeah. And the September 9th in Texas, just to remind people, is the 6 essay questions, 200 MBEs. There's no reciprocity for this one, and it's a 2-day test. So that's kind of all sort of different sort of things for Texas.
It is a on-paper exam. You're going to be given the questions in paper format and the MBE in paper format. That's why it can't go online, because the NCBE won't allow it. So you're going to write your answers on ExamSoft and submit them the same way you would if you were sitting in the test room, except you're sitting in a hotel room. So that's... It's typically Texas weird. I don't even know.
It's the most creative solution we've seen, that's for sure.
So I'm going to do a Texas preview video this weekend for people taking the exam on September 9th. There's nothing to predict. except it's going to be weird. But I will talk through some of this again about what's going on and what's been tested and how we see it. But truthfully, there's just not a lot to tell you. So, keep following your study guide and doing the work the way we've laid it out. You are taking a full MBE, just to remind everybody. Nothing changes there. Let me also say with that Hawaii score of 133, remember that a typical UBE score would be a 2-day test. It would be a 266. Hawaii's UBE score was higher than that. I want to say maybe it was a 270 or so. So what they're doing is they're cutting it in half and then dropping it down for this purpose of the Plan B. And affected by that, you probably are already aware of it. But again, it's an indication that we're seeing around the country, number of jurisdictions have decided to lower their scores for this test and this test only. California is the only jurisdiction that's made their cut permanent at this stage. Right,
which may partly account for the over 12,000 people signed up for the exam. All right, you're Texas, but you're taking the October 5th and 6th online exam. So remember, Texas has these two very different exams happening. If you're taking the online October 5th and 6th, Texas, I want to be really clear, this is not reciprocity, but they have announced that they will accept, so not moving out from Texas, but they will accept scores from 270 or more from DC, Connecticut, Illinois, Kentucky, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Tennessee, and Vermont. So if you are sitting in one of those jurisdictions taking an online October 5th and 6th, you will be able to waive into Texas if you get a 270 or more. If you're in Texas, you will not be able to waive into one of those states, as of right now at least, with that same score. So that's an important sort of odd caveat that's happening.
Well, and again, I'm going to do the opposite of what we did in Hawaii. Now you have to take your score and double it to get to that 270 level. So you won't be given a 270 in New York. You'll be given a 135. And then you just multiply it by 2, and that'll be the number that you apply over into Texas. So this is so bizarre. So essentially what Texas has done is they've said, well, we're going to the UBE in 2021, so we'll connect up to the UBE jurisdictions giving the Plan B test in 2020, but only one way. Oh, Texas, you guys really, I don't know why you bothered to stay in the union. But in any event, that's what's going on, and it's weird and crazy. So if you are one of the people taking the UBE, and did you say Maryland was one of the states, for example?
Yeah.
And you get the required 135 on the Maryland Plan B, and you're just dying to practice in Texas, well, here's your chance.
All right. Really quick, just want to note, because we had several students asking us about it or sending to us, the NCBE sent out a survey request for people who had sat for in-person exams in July. That was a very, as you put it, Jackson, leading questions that were very anti-online.
How much did you love in-person testing, right, as compared to the vagaries of online?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
So our take on it, Megan and I have been talking about it. Our take was that this was the NCBE trying to justify why they don't want to go to an online test. Mm-hmm. There continues to be a huge, titanic struggle going on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. The NCBE does not, under any circumstance, want to go online. They don't believe the test can be secured. So they also know they're under enormous pressure for obvious reasons, that these in-person exams, the health reasons, the difficulties there. So I think what they were fishing for was some kind words from bar takers that they could use. And I'm sure we'll see a survey talking about the glowing results from people that took the in-person exams. And problem? What problem? It was wonderful. Oh, you mean the guy next to me got COVID? Well, I don't know. It was strange, but everything's strange right now. But again, it was one of those, I looked at it, Megan looked at it, we kind of went, really? They're really doing this? And I would say, if you got one of those surveys and you felt uncomfortable about answering it, and I think you would have, don't answer it. It was not a requirement. Yeah, it goes in your spam folder as far as I'm concerned.
All right, so just a few questions about these kind of changes and what's happening with the states. I plan to take Florida bar in October and also the DC test on October 5th and 6th. So this would now be DC 5th and 6th, Florida October 13th. Is that allowed?
My feeling is it probably is not. And I want to just say to anybody that's trying to do multiple tests in the year 2020 now, so from today or from July 28th and 29th to the end of 2020, if you're thinking that you're going to be able to do that, you need to explicitly contact the bar examiners of both jurisdictions, and I would get in writing their approval for you to do that. We have seen several states that have explicitly said you cannot do it. California was one of them. But states would take the view that you cannot do it because it looks like a fair number of questions are going to be repeated. Now, I know that Florida is outside of that window of the NCBE, but it seems way out of character for Florida or for DC to allow you to take both exams. So I don't know, maybe somebody will say, I've checked with both and they've all said it's good. Okay, great. I mean, so now you're going to get to take 2 bar exams in, 14 days? Oh my gosh, 7 days. That's insane. I mean, whew, okay.
Yeah. Just make sure. A lot of jurisdictions have explicitly said you can't, so that you can only sit for one. So make sure you don't want to be like, well, they didn't say I couldn't because I didn't ask. This isn't a say ask for forgiveness instead of permission. They will just not hesitate to say nope, sorry. Okay. Are there any disadvantages to doing the October exam at home as opposed to at a hotel?
I think it's on the quality of your internet and the quality of your environment at home. If you've got children or dogs, if you're trying to do it from Megan's house, it would be a challenge. If the hotel, my experience with hotels when I travel, you remember when we used to travel, Megan?
Yeah. Yeah. Remember leaving, 10 miles away from your house?
Yeah. Hotel internet can be really spotty. And so would go to a business hotel, an extended hotel, someplace that's got really robust internet, and I would have some conversations with them ahead of time. Possibility. Some jurisdictions like California are offering law school settings to take the exam. I think the time to be securing a location, whatever it might be, and then verifying with your bar jurisdiction that the location you want to take it is okay with them. Obviously, taking it in a public place like a Starbucks or a Panera, and taking it in a residence where you've got people, pets, disruptions. So, some of you are going to have to come up with some creative solutions. I would start with law schools. I think that's one of the best places to go.
All right. And then in the chat box, the remote testing guidelines for California are silent on the use of an extended monitor for the exam. Do you know if the testing software will accommodate this? What I'll say is in California, you have to use a laptop. So you cannot use a desktop. You also cannot use a second monitor. So I'm not sure of an extended monitor on a laptop, if that exists. I don't know about it. So
I don't know if it exists, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be allowed.
Right. Yeah. That's again, I would say so this may be a desktop situation anyway, in which case it's no, but if it's a laptop and you have, you're allowed to have a big laptop. If you have a big laptop, that's fine. But you need to, if it's not just like my laptop came like this, but they said the software will detect any extensions. Like, so any, if you've got like things plugged into ports, it will detect that. And so that means if you have to plug something in to create this extension on the laptop, I would say no, but definitely California. Okay, she said I use a laptop and 17-inch monitor. I don't know. Like, is the monitor
with a separate monitor?
No, you can't do that. Yeah, it has to be the only screen you can have is the one that's on your laptop that folds down onto your keyboard. Yeah. You can't use anything else. So, okay, if that's how your laptop came, but I would call the bar examiners and find out.
There's no way. There's no way that's going to pass muster with them. Yeah. I'm just telling you right now. The weirder it is, the more in trouble you're going to get in.
Yeah, I think that's really the thing. Is it's basically like anything that you're trying to find a loophole, they don't want you to do that. So, but call and ask. But definitely get beforehand, because you just do not want it to get flagged, and then you've done the whole exam, and then they tell you we're throwing it out. So, okay. A lot of concerns with AI facial recognition. Are you allowed to even move your head during the test? This is
Well,
depending
you
on
are.
yeah, it's depending on the jurisdiction though, like how strict they're being with
Yeah,
it.
we talked to somebody that went through proctoring training in Florida who said that what they were told, and they're not AI, it's actual human volunteers, they were told that excessive movement is grounds for disqualification. And then when they said, well, what's excessive? Well, they didn't really have a definition. You know, if it makes you think there's something going on, well,
What is it, the tawny, I'll know it when I see it.
yeah, so the AI stuff, yeah, if you're doing a lot of back and forth and up and down and movement, that looks like you're looking, remember, you can't tell from here if I've got a book open, but if I'm looking up and looking down and looking up and looking down, then it's going to flag it. So, it's not that you have to sit rigidly, but you have to be engaged. Everything is on the screen for you. There is nothing, unless you're in an open book exam, in which case they're not proctoring the same way. But if you're in a traditional online exam, whatever that is,
Yeah.
Your eyes are on the screen. That's really the only place that they should be. Yeah. And I think if they see a lot of movement or a lot of eye movement off the screen, that is going to be a problem. So, yeah.
Okay.
We're having these conversations.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, it's crazy. So
we're really worried about the mental health of a lot of people who are just stressed beyond belief. When you add COVID and social justice and going back to school and the bar exam, it is a huge burden. Mm-hmm. And we are so in awe of all of you for doing this. But let us do our jobs to help you, okay? You don't need to ask us everything.
Feeling right now, and I think it's just like everybody just take a deep breath. Please do the group coaching sessions. This sucks. It's not fair. It's not fair. Like what's happening to you guys is really unfair, and I'm so sorry. And we can acknowledge that and also say, like, you have to get yourself through this in a way that's helpful for you as well. Like that's not, you can't put your whole soul into this test.
Yeah. And I would say to those of you taking the exam on October 5th or later now, that even though it feels like the exam is imminent, it is not. It's still a very long way away. And that will become apparent to you by the time we get into the middle of September. I just can't believe it's still dragging on.
Right.
So don't be in too big of a hurry to get to that finish line yet. Don't be too worried on the outcomes. There's an email I send out that talks about process versus, events. Be worried about process. How are you doing things? How are you studying? What are you creating in the way of study tools? Much more than how many questions did you get right or how good are your essays or how good is your performance test. I think it's easy to get caught up in that stuff. And if you do it too early, what happens is you just drain yourself.
Yes.
And then you go to the exam and you're wiped out. And that's what we're trying to avoid for you.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think this will be okay. And you've got, most of you, it's October 5th and 6th. You have time. We've got questions about, I'm only typing 700 words. Well, you're taking that October exam. Great. You just keep working at it. You keep plugging away at it. You're going to get quicker typing. If you type everything for the next month and a half, you will be quicker typer.
Yeah. Yeah, and in an online exam, you got to type. I mean,
right.
Unless you've got an accommodation, and I don't think that student did, you got to type. So quit your belly aching. just type. And I think there's a lot of those kinds of concerns. They're legitimate, but they're not productive. So I hope everybody comes away with a different kind of Q&A today, because I think that Megan and I both felt like we needed to sort of draw the line here that a lot of what's happening is just not good for you. And so in spite of how bad things are, if you'll just relax a little, take a breath, let us do our work, keep coming to these webinars, keep listening to them. If you're on the podcast, keep listening to the podcast, but let us do what we can do. We'll get you across the finish line, wherever that finish line is. That's what we're good at doing. Is it a different world? Yeah, absolutely. Is the finish line moving? Absolutely. But I think you're in good hands. I think you're in the best hands you could be in, honestly, under these circumstances. And so it's a real privilege for us to work with all of you. I really want to say that. And I mean it when I tell you that we are in awe of all of you taking the exam right now. And I know June and all the group coaches feel it's a good study week, a productive study week, stay with the plan, stay with the schedule. When things happen, we'll announce them on Facebook. We'll send emails where we need to do that. We'll let you know. We're good at communicating, I think, about those changes where they happen. And so don't be afraid you've missed something unless it's going into your spam folder. Right? So with that, what happens, and we will conform as we move forward. Okay.
Yes. Good luck with your studies this week, and do something fun. Do something that you enjoy just for you. You need to hold on.
Be back next Wednesday to talk to all of you. So have a great week and be productive. So with that, we'll say goodbye. Take care, everybody. Well, that's where we stand. It is a wild and crazy ride, and I don't think we're done yet. So hang in there, keep going. I hope that this was helpful for you today. Don't forget about our free special training webinar. Now is the best time to take the bar exam. Why you should ignore the crowd and the fear. You can find the information at celebrationbarreview.com/now or by clicking on the registration button on the show notes page, and then we'll see you on that training. All right, everybody, have a great week. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next week along the Extra Mile.
Thanks for listening and watching the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at celebrationbarreview.com.